Hello and welcome to another episode of TA Brews. This is episode 13 of Transatlantic Brews TV, and I'm Mark, and I'm here with the other half of Transatlantic Brews, Ponto, as he's known by most, Ryan, as he's known probably only by his mum.
And probably your mum.
Yeah, probably anyone's mum for that matter. How you doing, Ponto?
Good, how are you? By the way, last was debatable. Only by everyone's mom. Some mums don't know me, Brian.
There's so many mum jokes I could crack right now. It's not even funny.
Oh, I'm sure you've got a few brewing.
Anyway, I'm all right. Apart from recovering from a few sort of winter bugs, but I'm well and fit and ready to share a beer with you this week. I'm currently inundated with Christmas gifts under my feet. I can barely move in this room, but we're gonna manage. I'm gonna suffer through just for the sake of beer and stuff.
It almost sounds like you're in some sort of winter wonderland there.
Pretty much, yeah. This is the Christmas room. Apparently, this is where everything. Well, basically, this is our room that everything goes in that we can't fit anywhere else.
Right. The stuff that you don't want to get rid of, but the stuff doesn't fit in anywhere in your decor.
Exactly. Including me, apparently. So
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I don't know. Let's not go there. What beer have you got for us this week, Ponto?
I've got from Tofino Brewing, their Hoppin Cretin IPA.
Very good.
I'm a very big fan of IPAs, and they're the last one that I had, which if you watched the previous episodes, was the Kelp Stout, which was actually very good as well. So I'm very excited for that.
Very good. And you've got that's what, your second beer from Tofino now?
Yes. Yeah. So far, they're fast becoming one of my favorite BC breweries. Yeah,
I love their label designs as well. They're really quite special.
Yeah, they're quite classy. They got the nice matte finish on there, right?
Yeah.
And just it's simple, but it's not overpowering either.
No, I like it. Cool. I have nothing out of the ordinary, quite a well-known beer, actually, the Innis Gunn variety, but it's their rum finished beer. So it was a seasonal beer that they used to do, but it was so popular, they brought it back as a regular. So it's now part of their complete range. So it's readily available in the UK and pretty much readily available, or at least some of the Innis Gunn beers are readily available in Canada as well, and I believe in parts of the States. So but yeah, they specialize in oak aging. So cool. Do you want to draw?
Did you know that Innis Gunn was one of the highest imported beer in Canada for a few years?
I didn't know that.
So popular among Canadians. Like, aside from your mass produce stuff, but for craft beer type places, it was one of the higher imports up there, and Canadians just loved it.
Yeah, I have heard that the Canadian market in particular has been very, very strong for them. So I knew that, but I didn't know it was the highest at one point or whatever. So it was whatever you just said there. So, and
they even made a special Canada Day one. I think it was about 4 years ago now.
Yeah,
just for Canada. It's great.
Yeah, I've had it. It was really good. Yeah,
it was. Sad that it's not available anymore.
Yeah, it is a shame, isn't it? But I guess maybe they'll make it again. I know they do a Canadian cherry oak finished version, which I've had that as well. That's very, very good. They're all good, really. They're all pretty good. I mean, they all have that oaky base flavour or whatever of Innis Gunn, but yeah. But enough blabbing on about that. Should we? Excuse the pun. Do you want to open the beer first? Do you want to go first this week?
They're all about the puns today, aren't you, Mark?
A bit of cheese today.
Snorer is actually really good.
It's a nice steady hand there, Ponto. Very good.
I've been practiced. Thanks to you, mostly.
It's not a podcast, but we post the show on YouTube each week. So yeah, it's we record it and post it on YouTube afterwards. So you could say it's a blab and it's a video podcast or whatever, video show.
It's a thing we do once a week, and we drink beer, and people enjoy it generally.
Yeah, once a week we do this. So we're on episode 13 now. We've been doing this for 13 weeks.
Sure, if you have something to say, join in. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
So just on the smell, it's actually quite a nice, it's like a bouquet of fruity citrus and little bit of pine in there, maybe a little grass as well. It's quite. It's not very overpowering. I expected a little more pow to it, based on the IPAs I usually drink. But
yeah,
it's a very pleasant smell overall.
Cool. You say it was? I think you said before we started it was mostly Cascade hops. Did you? Yeah.
I said based off the descriptions they were giving, it seemed like it's probably Cascade hops because it has Cascade tends to have all those very citrusy, grapefruity kind of flavors in it,
right?
And a little bit of the resiny pine sort of flavor typically. So it's I guess based off that, and it tastes very close to it. But there's something else in there too. Now on the tongue there. It's actually quite light and crisp, which I really enjoy. And it gives you it doesn't get bitter until just the end there. Yeah, a bit shocking considering how heavily hopped it generally is. Quite nice kind of citrusy finish on that. The kind of grapefruit bitterness that puckers your lips if you're into grapefruit anyway. Yeah, it goes through this whole transformation in your mouth. It's actually quite nice. It starts off really sweet, washes over there, leaves a little bit of a coating there, and it just finishes off in the sort of drying up bitter finish. Cool. Not overly bitter. It's a very pleasant bitter. So
yeah,
it's definitely a really good beer.
Yeah, sounds quite nice and balanced actually.
Yeah,
maybe more of a north. I've heard generally that the northwest coast IPAs generally go more for the really fresh aroma side of the beer. So you got obviously West Coast IPA where it's all about the mega hops and really in your face flavor. And then you've got more balance on the East Coast, but in the Northwest variety, I believe it's more about the aromatics, which would kind of match the description you gave, I guess. But it's not a hard and fast rule by any stretch of the imagination. It's just guidelines because you'll get East Coast IPAs that are as mega as any West Coast and vice versa, But yeah, it sounds like a classic Northwest variety, which would make sense where you are.
Well, exactly. I'm in the Northwest of North America.
Indeed, yeah.
And we have one question already. Does beer taste like root beer?
No.
Generally not.
No.
I would say you could probably make some of it taste like root beer if you put ice cream with it. Possibly. Yeah.
You could mix it with ice cream. I've done that before, as you know. Dear. So no, it doesn't. But anyway, don't go drinking unless you're over age, whatever it is. In
the legal age in your area changes.
Yeah.
Here it's 19. One province over, it's 18. Where Mark is, it's whenever you want, apparently.
Whenever you want, yeah. Legally, it's 18.
And in the States, it's about 21.
Yeah, indeed. Cool. Did we want to let this person in? Cool.
Yeah, let's find out. What's going on?
What's up, guys?
Oh, it's this guy again.
Hey, yeah, we recognize you.
You talked to me before?
Yeah. How you doing?
I don't remember you guys.
No, you've been in our blab before.
Oh yeah. I just came out to ask what this beer tastes like.
Well, the main ingredients are malt, so that's basically made from barley, and hops and water. So hops are essentially a vine plant that essentially grow on big, huge vines, and they're a very floral type sort of flavor and character as well. So those are the main ingredients. So you've got malted barley, hops, water, and then the yeast, which obviously creates the alcohol by turning the sugars, by fermenting the sugars. So beers are very diverse in flavors, so they can taste anything from very, very sweet to right up to very bitter and hoppy. They can taste sour. They can taste that. It all depends. I mean, it's not a topic I can summarize for you in one paragraph. But if you check out many of the books that are out there that introduce you to beer, I mean, what you could do is you could go to our website and you could check out some of the basics. I'll pop you a link and actually
explain. What's your website, man?
Yeah, our website this is our learn section of our website, which covers the basics of beer. So if you want to go and find out about the basic ingredients and some of the kind of basic flavors, you could start there.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
So I just came on. I don't want to interrupt your show, guys. So I'll see you later. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that's all right.
Thanks for joining.
Peace out.
Cheers. Cool.
Very curious individual.
Yeah, apparently so. But anyway, yeah, I don't know how I summarize the flavor of beer in 5 minutes, but because it's just so diverse.
It is. I mean, I could say generally though, this one tastes of bitter citrus, for example.
Yeah.
That's a good start. I mean, there's other flavors in there, but the main flavor that you get is bitter citrus from an IPA most of the time. You can get ones that are more bready, but then you'll have, you'll have darker beers that taste more like bread and stuff like that, and chocolate and coffee. So
yeah, more malty based varieties. You get caramel in there as well. All kinds of flavors, chocolate even. There's just the flavor combinations are endless, and really it's the whole world out there. But should we move on to the next beer?
Go for it.
Cool. All right. So this is, just as a reminder, this is the Innis Gunn, and it's their rum finished beer. So it's been aged with oak that has been infused previously with rum. So that poured nicely into here. I'm using a tulip glass. Seems appropriate for a beer of this sort of body and depth. Fairly nice large head on there. Nice amber orangey hue kind of color to it, almost a ruby slight tinge there as well. Yeah, I mean, it has that typical kind of slightly oaky, vanilla-y kind of aspects that you would expect from an Innis Gunn beer, and that obviously comes from the oak aging that they use. Remind me, Ponto, they have something that they two ways that they age beers, don't they? They have the traditional way, which is in an oak barrel, so in barrels that previously contained other liquor. One of the popular ones being bourbon, but this one in particular being previously contained rum. But they also have another more modern, more innovative way of infusing beer as well. Do you want to go over that, Ponto?
Yeah, they have a thing called the Oakerator, which was their own invention. It's proprietary to Innis Gunn. And what it basically is, it's kind of like a coffee percolator, where they put all the oak bits in the bottom. They put the beer through, and they start the boil. And what it does is it forces the beer in circles around this whole percolator to go through the oak and take all the flavors out. Now this is air aged, 2 year, I believe, aged oak that's also been roasted. So it still has that sort of roasty, vanilla-y sort of attribute to it. But instead of having to age these barrels for 10 or 15 years or however long the ones they happen to get are, it's an instant process, relatively speaking, by 2 years, where they can just do this all on their own. They have their area that they put all their oak into to age, and as they need it, they pull it out and put it into the Oakerator, and basically take all the flavors out by just forcing the beer through all the pores in the wood. It's actually quite interesting. Yeah, they're the only brewery that does something like that.
It's really quite amazing. And we were talking earlier, just off the record before the show, about how essentially Innis Gunn, because they're quite big these days. I mean, there's really no way, as you say, with the amount of barrels that are available, that they would actually be able to create the quantity of beer that they do that's readily available in multiple countries with that oak-aged flavour without doing something like this. So this is a really innovative way of being able to create a beer that has full flavour of the barrel aging process without actually having to have the inconvenience and the time and the money that it takes, and also let alone the scarcity of the barrels to create that. So I've really got to admire them, really, how they've managed to achieve that and continue to deliver the same sort of quality. I believe, despite the fact that they've got really big, I believe their beers are just as good as they always have been. So,
well, actually, really I think it's better because you brought up a good point about their bottles earlier too.
Yes, yeah.
So the darker colored bottles from the clear ones they used to have.
So they used to have these clear bottles. For anyone who's watching, essentially, that there are three kinds of varieties of bottles you can get. There's clear glass, there's green glass, and there's brown glass. Now, light, very natural light, sunlight is very, very bad for beer. It essentially starts to, over time, it breaks down. It breaks down the hops in particular in beer and gives off a chemical compound that basically gives off that same aroma as skunk, essentially, as a skunk. So it gives off a very, very bad negative off flavour in beer, and having a dark brown bottle will protect that much better than either green glass or clear glass. Clear glass provides absolutely no protection whatsoever, whereas green glass provides some protection, but brown glass is best. Now, recently, however, I think we've mentioned on the show before, just the cans have become very, very popular, because now they're very, very much more advanced than they used to be, with the linings that are in there that stop that metallic taste that people used to associate with cans, but they don't let any light in at all, and they seal completely for freshness. So from a quality standpoint, actually, your best bet is actually cans. But you've got to say that glass has a certain amount of class to it. And I mean, in particular, when you get things like this, the detail on the bottle, the blown glass and everything, is far more sort of dinner table ready, adding that element of sophistication to the beer. But anyway, I digress. Back to tasting the beer. Yeah, so the aroma is really settling in now that it's in the glass. I'm getting that lovely kind of oaky, vanilla type smell and aroma that you would get from an oak-aged beer. There's lots of soft fruits, an element of spice in there as well. Really quite a lovely aromatic smell, actually. So, go for the taste. Cheers. Yeah, lovely and smooth mouthfeel. Soft, again, soft sort of fruity taste up front with some initial sweetness. And then kind of like coat your mouth with that lovely kind of mouthfeel that I was just briefly sort of getting into. There's a tinge of spice in there and some of the bitterness from some of the hops, although the hops aren't that crazy, because obviously barrel-aged or oak-aged beers generally tends to mellow out all of that kind of hop character. You end up with something that's a little bit more boozy, a little bit more warming, a little bit more complex. I mean, there's that kind of slight element of I guess, some of the spiciness that you would expect with maybe a spice rum, or whatever. I guess that's some of the warming character that's in there as well. What's the strength of this? It's 6.8, so it's got a fair heft to it. So it's a nice winter warmer, if you like. Very well balanced beer, actually, very enjoyable. I would say it's got less of that vanilla character than maybe the original Innis Gunn has got, and more of that spicy note, if I was to summarize it. But it's still got that base kind of oaky, warming, rich flavor that you would expect from an Innis Gunn beer.
That would be my biggest complaint about the original Innis Gunn, is it's extremely sweet compared to some of their other beers. Yeah, and it was just the vanilla really starts overpowering in the original one. It makes it very smooth. But if you're not into a lot of sweet drinks or a lot of sweet beer, it's a bit overkill for me personally, anyway. For
me, with this one, I think I'd be inclined to agree, and I think that spice element really helps to balance it out slightly. So where you haven't got the hit of hops that you would quite often expect with a more hoppy, a non-barrel aged beer or whatever, you've got that spice that kind of balances out that real malt sweetness. Whereas in the original, I think I'm inclined to agree with you. That's not quite there for me. So yeah, I would definitely say this is more of a go-to beer for me than the original. Definitely something to enjoy over the winter season. Nice and warming, nice and comforting. I mean, who doesn't like a little bit of rum occasionally at Christmas? So
especially with your nog.
Yeah, exactly. So it's got that lovely wintry kind of element. As we get into the colder months and closer to Christmas now, this is definitely the sort of thing that I'd be turning to for some enjoyment over the festive period. So yeah, all in all, I would seek this out again. It's easy to get a hold of. It's now part of their regular range, so I'd imagine you should be able to find this in either the UK really easily, Canada pretty easily as well, and likely in the States as well, hopefully. So seek it out. I'd recommend. Cool. So we have a few people watching on the show. Did anyone want to jump in on the seat and join in? I mean, you're welcome to join in if you like. Or
if you have any questions or anything, feel free to post them in there.
At all, feel free to fire over. As I say, we do this show once a week with TA Brews. This is our TA Brews TV, so to speak. And we have a guy here. So,
hello, Richard.
Hello. Oh, I'm struggling to connect, I think, there a little bit.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we are.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, we drink Windhoek Lager, Castle Lager, Black Label, Lion Lager.
So where are you from? Sorry, Richard.
South Africa.
Ah, South Africa. Okay, yep.
So what time is it over there? I'm just curious.
Sorry?
What time is it over there? I'm just curious.
Oh, it's about 11:25.
Okay, quite late then. Excellent. So what are you drinking tonight?
Sorry?
What are you drinking tonight?
Oh, Windhoek Lager.
Windhoek Lager?
Windhoek, did you say?
Yeah, Windhoek.
Okay, I haven't heard of that before.
It's not. It's German beer.
Oh, German. Okay.
Comes from Southwest Africa.
Ah, right, but it's a German style Pilsner or a Helles. Okay.
We also drink Heineken.
Heineken. Yeah. The big guys.
Common everywhere, I think.
Yeah.
So,
I love Heineken. Such a nice beer.
Right.
So between the two, which one do you prefer, the Windhoek or the Heineken?
The Windhoek Lager is very nice, actually.
Right.
But we got this common beer here. It's called Black Label, and it isn't so nice, but majority of the people drink it.
Right.
Black Label. And what's the other one called? Castle Lager. Yeah, Lion Ale comes from Cape Town.
Okay.
You know where Cape Town is?
Yeah. Do you get many craft brewers over there? I mean, we tend to cover more of the small microbreweries, the craft brewers from both North America and from the UK. Do you guys have a craft brewing scene down there?
No, we've got the monopoly of a brewery here is Miller's. We make beers that go all over the world.
Yeah, SAB Miller, they own a lot.
Yeah. Miller SAB. We make the beer that goes all over the world. You probably drink Miller's or beer in the US. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, they own a lot of brands, don't they? SAB Miller. So yeah.
Yeah, come think of it, aren't they about 80% of the beer market technically at this point? Something like that?
Right.
Yeah. Obviously with the merger and everything. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they just had the big merger recently. They took over. Who was it they took over?
Yeah,
they merged with Anheuser.
There was a thing about it.
Yeah, so
they
now
took over
some. Sorry.
Yeah, they took over some other beer place.
Yeah, it's SAB Miller merged with Anheuser-Busch InBev, and essentially they're now the world's biggest beer conglomerate. So they own 2/3 at this present time. They own 2/3, I think it is, of the US beer market. So, although that'll probably change. I think the regulators are on their case a little bit about having that much of a monopoly. But essentially it's big news because the main thing about that, actually, the most interesting thing about that is not just the fact that they own so much of the beer market. It did go through, Dan. Yeah, that you're absolutely correct. So essentially, because they own so much of the market now, they have this thing called the 3-tier system in the States. So essentially, beer has to go through a distributor before it hits the consumer. So you can't just, as a brewery, unless you own a brew pub, you can't actually sell directly to the consumer. You can't just say, for example, you've got a website, you can't just ship beer directly from you to the consumer. You have to go through one of these distributors. And one of the biggest fears people have about this big merger for craft beer is that they may start to buy up, and already are, I think, starting to buy up some of the distribution network. And that may be a way for them to strangle access to the market. So essentially, there's going to be a hell of a lot more Heineken potentially available from the sounds of it in the States. So hopefully it doesn't affect the craft brewers too much. I'm pretty sure, people will vote with their feet and buy what they want to buy, but it certainly might make things more difficult in certain states depending on who owns the distribution network, I suppose. But we'll see how that one pans out.
Tell me, is Sunset Pilsner there in the States?
Sunset Pilsner. Ponto, do you know? Have you heard of that one before?
No, I haven't had that one before.
Hansa Pilsner.
Oh, Hansa Pilsner.
Yeah.
No, I haven't heard of that one. No.
Just taking a quick Google at and seeing if I may have seen the bottle or something anywhere. I haven't seen that myself, but I imagine it's probably in quite a lot in the States. It looks like something I may have seen down in the States a few times.
Yeah, there is Pilsners. They're all over the world.
It goes all over, eh?
Yeah, the Pilsner is in France, everywhere. Germany, Pilsners. You know what? I'd like to know what German beer is made of, because I'd love to know what German beer. Why isn't it all over the world? Like real German beer, like they serve on the sidewalks.
Well, German beer is very well known for, historically at least, having what's known as the purity law, the German purity law, or the I've forgotten the name of it in German now. The Rheinisgebot or something along those varieties. My pronunciation of German is not particularly good, but it essentially is the German purity law. It's defunct now. It goes back hundreds of years, but many German brewers still adhere to it. But it states that beer cannot be called beer unless it's only made from the 4 ingredients of malt, hop, yeast, and water. So only with the exception actually is wheat beer, because obviously wheat isn't in that category, but they still allow that to be an exception from the purity law. Now, as I say, so if you were to add things like adjuncts such as rice or corn or anything like that, you couldn't technically have called it beer under that German purity law. It was a way of preventing, hundreds of years ago, essentially poor quality of some of the beers that were available. It was a way of making sure that poor quality and potentially, bad experiences for consumers didn't happen. But it did get repealed, sort of years ago. So it doesn't actually exist anymore. But many German brewers still use it as a bit of a marketing ploy to claim that their beer is good, but what it does is it actually stifles creativity in many ways, because it stops people from playing around with things like barrel aging, for example. They couldn't actually call that beer. That wouldn't be classified as beer under the German purity law. So, you're right. The Rheinisgebot you've just Dan. Thank you very much for dropping that in the comments.
I've got another thing to say. There's something else to say. There's a beer that's advertised on the TV. It's called Flying Fish. They actually brew that beer taste out and put other flavors in it. You ever heard about that? No.
It sounds like you get a lot of brands that we're not familiar with. As I say, we cover mostly craft beers from either North America or the UK. So
it almost sounds like that one I heard about on the Oz and James special, where if it contains fish anyway. There's one they tried that had jellyfish in it.
Oh, jellyfish, and there was another one that had offal, as well.
Yeah.
They had several different weird concoctions, didn't they?
Very, very weird things. I wonder how it is brewing with I guess, sea creatures in your beer. Must make an awful smell in the brewing process, I'd imagine.
Apparently, the beer tastes terrible.
Well, if that's fishing, I'm not that surprised.
Yeah, it's going well for them then.
and blacks drink it. They do. It's an advert. They love it.
Interesting. I guess every culture has their own preference and flavors and such. So
yeah. So I'm gonna get myself a beer now. So I must sign off.
Excellent.
Where's my beer? My beer's Swedish. Where's my beer? Yeah. I'm gonna get a beer now. So see you,
Excellent.
You
I don't get off here. Thanks.
Press the X. That's it. Cheers. All right.
Interesting fella.
Interesting. The I guess the South African beer scene, I don't think there's much of a craft scene down there, is there? From what I understand, I know there's an increase in craft in many other countries. I mean, I know Italy's got a real growing craft beer scene now, which is surprising for a country that is predominantly wine based. Even some little pockets of France are showing an element of craft beer, and considering that wine is so dominant in France, it's very they've got a big uphill struggle there, I think. I mean, I went to France obviously this year just for holidays, and it was a bit of a beer wasteland, really, very dominated by either the mass brands, things like Kronenberg or Stella, or some elements of German and Belgian beers made it over, but it was mostly big branded stuff, unfortunately. Yeah. But I do believe, I have heard there is the beginnings, the foundations of something a bit more interesting. So, yeah.
So speaking of that, with wine and the Reinheitsgebot from Germany, reminds me of the whole wine scene over in France, where they really do have a stifled creativity when it comes to making wine, because they have all their grapes are very compartmentalized into different regions and such, and they don't allow cross pollination of the grapes and all that, or even mixing of different grapes. And, I do remember all that from the Oz and James Wine Adventures. Yeah. How they would find a lot of the more, shall we say, risque Frenchmen who were making wine, or French women even, moving over to California as the new world, so to speak. It's almost like a rediscovering of North America again, right?
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting you say it, because I think that some of that happens in the beer world as well, because obviously with the German, I think you were basically getting at it. I mean, in terms of the Germany, the purity law, but also in the UK with cask ale and Camera and what they deem as being real ale. And I think similar with the wine world in the States, the beer world just has an attitude in the States that anything goes, and it's just a melting pot of experimentation, and that's, in my view, only a good thing for the beer scene, right? They're free from the shackles of history in that way. They're not bound by any predetermined ideas of what beer should be, and that's ultimately what gave birth to the whole craft beer scene that went global. And now, lo and behold, you've got people in Britain emulating that. So it's that cross pollination and everything, and we've written about it before on the website. We've talked about it on the show before. It's really something that I think is exciting about what's happened over in America has really started to flood out into the rest of the world now, and I think that's great for craft beer. Hopefully, eventually, maybe one day it'll make it to South Africa. Who knows?
Maybe. Also, speaking of that, there's a lot of styles that have come back from the dead, so to speak, because of the American brewers who want to try something different and something new. They've been looking up, these old recipes and styles from, more ancient Germany or more historical Germany and other places in Europe there that are really big for beer, and they've been essentially rescuing these styles from the death of time, so to say. Yeah, and it's been great, and there's been a lot of styles that have come back from it, especially a lot of the more reclusive German styles. Really, come back a lot.
Like Goza.
Yep, Goza is one of them. And I think there's a huge resurgence in sours too, and just different types and trying out different styles of it too.
Yeah, sour's the new bitter.
Yeah, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's the Alibi Room, which you and I know decently well, and they used to have one or two sours on the menu years ago when we used to go there, but now you go there and they have an entire section dedicated to just sours. So it really is becoming quite the selection.
Wow, that's quite a change from last time I was there then, because they had maybe one or two lambic beers in the cellar. Mm-hmm. And that was about it. But, I suppose that was probably about 5 years ago now. So, or at least 3 or 4. Things are moving on. I've got to make a trip over.
Excellent. Well, nobody has any more questions or anything. I think it's about time to wrap up this week's episode.
Yeah, I think it is. So, this has been Transatlantic Brews TV, episode 13. It's 13, isn't it, Ponto?
It is 13.
Yeah, sorry, I forget. It gets to the end of the episode, and I forgot what number we're on.
You're drinking too fast, that's all.
Yeah. Oh, dear. So, we're Transatlantic Brews. Cheers, Dan. Thanks for your kind words there. we do this once a week, but you can also check us out on our website if you like. And for you guys that are watching, if you head over to our website, we do have a little treat for you, actually. So if you go to Transatlantic Brews, on our homepage there, you can download our Beer Geek Toolkit, which has essentially 5 different ways that you can begin to enjoy your beer straight away by downloading that and following some of the tips in that guide. Or if you dig into our blog there, we've actually got a Christmas treat in that you can download our 12 Beers of Christmas guide as well. But yeah, head over to the website and grab your freebies, and we will see you next week.
Excellent. Cheers. See you next week, guys.
Cheers.